All right. Hi, guys. I am coming at you live. Gonna give a couple minutes to my guest while she comes on here. But yeah, I decided to do my live outside today because it's a beautiful day. And it's really, really just nice. And I'm excited to chat with you guys today and dig in a little bit deeper to the episode that I released with Michelle De Jesus. She's going to be on here in just a second. Definitely, if you guys have questions, just drop them while we're talking. If you have comments, yeah, we're going to have a grand old time today. So, and I have no idea what that noise is. Of course, they weren't doing anything until I turned this on. So hopefully it won't last the whole time. And if I have to, oh, there we go. Okay, good. They turned it off. Yeah. So I am, I'm just excited. I'm excited to talk to Michelle. I don't know what's going on there. But she's going to come on in just a second. How's everybody doing today? Let's see. She should be here. Aha! Yay!
Hey!
How are you?
Good, how are you?
I am doing well. I'm hoping we have like construction going on and it was just making a lot of noise. So I'm hoping that they should be done.
No, yeah, I heard it.
Yeah. I was like, what is that?
Yeah, I have my emotional support animal with me.
Oh my goodness. What's her name?
Her name is Luna.
Luna. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Hi, Luna.
She's a diva.
Oh, hey. Oh my goodness. She's so cute.
No, she's terrible. Don't be fooled by her face.
She's like, I'm not up to anything. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Treat babies all day to come home with this fat baby.
Yep. Yeah, actually, we didn't really talk too much about it in the episode. So I was hoping that maybe we'd spend a little bit of time and you can share what you do in your daily life right now as an OT, because we jumped into one of your other passions, and I know what you currently are up to is something else that you love. So maybe start with just a little introduction about who you are, just in case people didn't make the episode, and then share a little bit about your current practice area.
Okay, so my name is Michelle. I'm a pediatric occupational therapist in Miami, Florida. I actually have two jobs. So I work at a private clinic, and I also work at a hospital-based outpatient pediatric rehab setting. So it's interesting to get a little bit of both. But yeah, I work in Miami, and I didn't really talk about it too much in the podcast episode because, I mean, to be honest, I have a year of experience and I don't feel like I'm an expert in the field. I'm still learning. I'm taking each day with grace. And what I felt most confident about is my own personal experiences and wanting to share that. And I think that it holds such a value with not just OT, but across all healthcare professions in general. So I really wanted to focus on that. But now that we're here, I'd love to share a little bit more about just my experiences as a peds OT, because it has not been easy. It's been just like an up and down type of journey, but
yes. Well, and I wanted to say, when we originally recorded, you were just under that 1 year mark, and now you're officially over the 1 year mark. So congratulations.
Yeah.
And that's super exciting and like really cool, because I think like when you first said it, I think you were only like a week or a month, or you were so close to hitting it.
I was very shy of that 1 year, and I was super excited for it.
Right. And now it's like, oh yeah, I've been practicing for a year.
I hit that 1 year, So I was looking forward to, honestly, since I started, I was like, I can't wait to make a year. Like, let me just make it to the year. And now I'm like, I can't wait to make 5 years and see how that changes, like each milestone. So
yeah, well, and then you'll be like me and you'll look back and be like, oh, school was 10 years ago.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So crazy. And I'm still no expert, so don't worry.
Well, definitely more so than me. I definitely have to chat with you a little bit more sometimes for some ideas. So.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So what would you say is like your favorite part of your daily role as an OT right now?
Oh my God, the kids. I love the kids. Honestly, to work in pediatrics, I think you just have to have that love to work with kids, because otherwise you just won't have the energy to go through it day in and day out. And that's something that ironically I didn't know I wanted to do pediatrics when I became an OT. I knew I wanted to pursue occupational therapy because I loved how you get to build just such a wonderful relationship with your clients, because in other professions, I feel like it was very short, like that amount of interaction that you get with your patients or clients. So I think OT is just awesome, where especially in peds, you can build these like 6 month, 1 year relationships with families, and you become part of the family, to be honest. That's how I feel. Seeing these kids 2 or 3 times a week, and then for a year already I have a few. So it's been crazy and it's been wonderful, and it's just been like honestly the best thing that I could have ever asked for. It's the best profession, hands
Oh
down.
yeah. I
I
100% agree.
yeah.
But I didn't realize that you didn't necessarily think you were going to go into peds.
No, I didn't. I came in with an open mind, and everyone said that, like, you're going to come in with an idea of what you want to do, and then you kind of will figure it out along the way. So for those of you that don't have your mind up and you're in OT school, like, don't worry, that happens. I mean, I was kind of like wishy-washy, like, I like adults, I like this, but my heart feels full in pediatrics 100%. Like, I see a baby and I just melt still. So, and I love just being able to collaborate with families in general. So
Yeah.
I love that. So.
What typical ages are you working with right now?
So that's the crazy thing. So I love working at because I love working at the hospital, because I literally have no normal patient. I work from kids a few days old up until 21, and they have all of these kinds of different diagnoses. I mean, I see your CP, I see all the trisomies, I see these crazy neurological syndromes, these really rare chromosomal disorders, and I see everything. And I think that it's been very challenging as a new grad in that setting, but it's been a wonderful learning experience, and I grow every day, and it's pushed me to literally do my best and to look up evidence-based interventions, to collaborate with the family and listen to them, because I work with people of all backgrounds. Living in South Florida, you have a diverse population that you're going to work with. So that has been challenging but wonderful. Like, I cannot tell you how much I've learned this 1 year, so I can't imagine working longer. And like what you're saying, 10 years, wow, I can't even imagine I'm gonna know then. So
yeah, but like so much of what you're saying right now, I'm like, yep, that's exactly, even though I don't span all the way to 21, I only go up to 3 years of age, but it's the same exact thing. Like the rare, like super, super rare just diagnoses. Like I had one kiddo that there are 24 documented cases in the world.
Oh my, I had one kind of like that, like 30 in the whole world. I'm like, what is that? That's so crazy that I get to be a part of that and learning. And you can't even look up, like, what do you do for this? Because it's not there. You just figure it out. And it's awesome. It's
and just be there and support the family. And really, like, I'm curious kind of how you are, because for me, diagnosis doesn't really mean much. Like, I'll glance at it, but then I'm looking at the child and I'm looking at the strengths and I'm looking at where I think they need to get to, or where the parents hope that they can get to. And so even though it's like, oh yeah, this is super rare, for me, like, doesn't really make any difference, because I'm just going to work with them.
So true. You work from where they're at. Like, you look at them and you see what they're doing, how they're playing, how they're interacting in their environment. And then if you literally look at it from the OT lens. So whatever they have doesn't matter. It's what you want them and what the family wants them to do. So that's what I think. It's funny because I tell my boyfriend that, because he is about to graduate medical school. And he looks at it in a complete opposite way. He's like, oh my gosh, you need to look up that diagnosis and you need to know all of these things. I'm like, really? I don't. I mean, I look into precautions, definitely. And I look into like maybe like general characteristics of a syndrome or a disorder. But, you know, OT is OT. You have to look at it from that broad lens, like participation, occupation, and are they playing? Are they doing what they should be doing for their age? And you look at all the kids that way and from where the parents want them to be. And that, I think, is so valuable, and why we're so needed as a profession, because I think we're one of the only ones that really look at it that way, because I kind of feel fortunate that I see the other side, especially having a boyfriend that's very medical model, that he will tell me what maybe the majority will look at it like, and then I will tell them, no, well, listen, this kid is very functional, regardless of his diagnosis. Like, he has so much potential, and look, he does this, this, and this. And it's funny. We have very differing, but I don't know, we complement each other in that way. So.
Yeah, well, and I'm sure that like he'll probably say things that make you kind of think and like, oh, okay, maybe I should look at that. Maybe I should consider that. And then I'm sure you'll say things that he's like, I never would have even once considered that, but that is definitely something that I should be thinking about when I'm working with clients too. So I can see it learning both ways.
Until he gets onto the tangents with like all this scientific and physical stuff, that's when I'm like, okay, I'm done. You're done. Let's not talk about this anymore.
Right.
Yeah. Can he walk? Can he crawl? Can he cross midline? Can he play midline? Okay. That's what I'm worried about. That's it.
Yeah. But what a really like cool learning opportunity, because I'm sure with some of these more rare or even just maybe diagnoses that you're less familiar with, you could kind of pick his brain and be like, so what?
All the time. I do it, and it's hilarious. Our conversations are so nerdy, but it's very informative to see that other view of what he looks at and what I look at. I mean, Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I could go on about that. I don't want to bore everybody with that, but
well, I feel like my husband is not medical at all, and we have some very nerdy conversations too, but most of the time, like, I'll talk medical and then he'll talk like tech.
Oh my god, perfect couple.
Oh yeah,
especially
like,
for what you're doing though. Like, you're on this platform, so I feel like you guys also complement each other with what you're doing. So
yep. I'm always like, hey, my computer.
Oh my god,
this isn't working right.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a question, and I know it was something that we talked about just kind of briefly in the beginning of the episode, but I know that you had mentioned the 3 V's.
Yes.
And I realized, like, afterwards, I was like, ooh, we probably should have, like, dove in a little bit deeper about what they are and where you got the information and all of that. So maybe we can take a moment and talk about that.
It's funny because Alexis mentioned me, Alexis Joel from Instagram. She's wonderful, but she mentioned me and she wanted to cite where I got the 3 V's from, and then I wanted to kick myself because I'm like, after I listened to the episode, I'm like, I didn't cite where I got it from. Error number 1. Always cite your sources.
Yeah.
Anyways, that is actually an article that I got. It's by Dr. Eric Roman, and he's basically like a researcher, educator, activist, and really his focus is more about like minority representation in politics and in film and media and things like that. But he conceptualized it by saying the 3 V's, which is voice, visibility, and validation. And it's stuff to keep in mind when you're talking about representation and how important it is. Like, hashtag super important. Like, you have to think about these 3 things when you're talking about representation in media and just on, social media, whatever. So voice is basically giving minorities just a seat at the table and being able to express what the issues are. And minorities meaning LGBTQ+, talking about, gender, sexuality, people of color, Hispanic, African American, and yada yada. But really the majority in the sense is like white males is what they're really addressing in the article. In our profession, it's a little bit different because our profession is white female, that is a majority. But in general, and like across other healthcare professions and other like higher level positions of power in politics, it's what they're typically talking about white males. So, and heterosexual males at that. So what he's talking about is giving us a voice, because especially in healthcare, we're going to be working with people of diverse backgrounds. And, for us as OTs, that's super important because you want to address their cultural values. You want to address their belief systems. You want to address what makes them, their identity and what's important to them. And for being a workforce that is very lack of diversity, like very lacking in that department, it's something that has to be addressed and it has to be, spoken about. And that's why I feel super passionate about this, because I don't really see a lot, within our profession of it. And I feel like I want to be someone that at least is speaking up about it. I may not be the most professional. I may not be like, quote unquote, like politically correct in all senses of the word, but I'm passionate about it, and I want to be able to at least bring up that conversation within our field. So that's where that voice part comes in. And it's interesting because like there was a study that he mentioned where women, when they feel outnumbered in a group of like their male counterparts, they're less likely to voice their opinion. And that's been a study and things that I've heard like mentioned in the media recently. But I think in our profession, I think that also exists where I feel like those of us that are the minority, we tend to just be more silent, muted in a sense, because our needs aren't being expressed the way we would like them to. And that kind of ties into when I went to conference as an OT student, I didn't really see a lot of people that looked like me or that had a similar background as me. So the 3Vs kind of tie into that because visibility, I didn't see anyone that looked like me, so I wasn't seeing it. And there's something to be said about the power of seeing someone as a similar background as you and how that influences you as a person and how that makes you feel like you're a worthy human being. You know, like I was looking for a presenter, I was looking for like a president, a chair, a vice president, someone of color, someone that came from a similar background as me, and I didn't find it. So I felt maybe that's something that's unattainable for me, or something that's going to be that much harder for me to accomplish because I am of a different background. I grew up differently than these people. I had different opportunities presented to me. So that's something that I kind of wanted to bring a little bit more light on and like cite it appropriately. You know, and validation was the last V. I didn't talk about validation, but it ties into that because you feel validated as a person if you see yourself represented. So those are the 3Vs, and I love it. And I think it's just a wonderful way to make it easy to break down about the importance of representation.
Definitely. And if anybody does want to check out the resource, the source, I'll add it into the show notes of the episode. So if anybody's watching this and wants to go reference it, I'll add it in there. It's not going to be in there like right after this, but I will do it as soon as I possibly can. But one of the things that really stood out to me once the episode came out is I had so many people reach out that were just like, so much of what you spoke about, Michelle, was like, it resonated with them. And it was similar stories that they had gone through. And you kind of alluded to it when we, like earlier when we were talking, but it's so important to have conversations and have conversations about this topic as well as so many other topics in our profession that don't often get talked about that much. And I feel like the more conversations we can have about this, the more that we can learn, the more that we can help educate and inform and just bring awareness to diversity, the lack thereof, and really kind of give a voice to some of the people that feel like maybe they don't have a voice, whether it's identity, whether it's race, whether it's gender, whatever it is, bringing the discussion to the forefront. And then hopefully that will just add to being able to kind of promote the education piece and that awareness piece.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's unfortunate because I feel like it's something that it impacts all of us. And as healthcare practitioners, especially, it impacts you, whether it's you in your personal life or your clients, your patients, like who you're seeing on a daily basis, who you're working with. Like, why are you in healthcare if this doesn't mean something to you? Because you will encounter these people, and you are like, if you don't want what's best for them, it makes me question why you're in healthcare. It sounds so horrible and like blunt the way I say it, but it's something that should be of importance to everybody. It is a, you know, a humanistic issue. It's something that impacts all of us. So it's something that I think should be at the forefront of everything, which is why I'm glad AOTA added it to one of their like initiatives. And they spoke about diversity and inclusion. So I see that there's changes and movement happening, but I think there's a lot of improvement needed to be made.
Yeah. Dev, the Rainbow OT, he just says preach. Yep.
All right, boo, I'm trying.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just, again, it's something that needs to just be continued to talk about, right? And like even what we talk about today, there's going to be more stuff that needs to just add to that bucket and add to the discussions. So I'm definitely glad that we're starting to have this conversation, and COTAD is doing amazing, wonderful work. But you know, there's definitely still work that needs to be done in our profession for sure.
Yeah, but we're on our way up. I really feel like that. And I'm new to the profession, so I feel like maybe me and a couple other people, Dev, for example, and I've had people reach out to me that I kind of like motivate them to raise your voice, because if we're not going to, who will? You know, and they feel just as passionate as I do, or if not more, and they want to start. And I feel that hunger and that motivation for a change. And so I'm very positive about how this is going to change in the next few years. And I see that everyone is kind of coming together collectively to try to address it somehow. So,
yeah. Well, and I think a lot of times, and I know I've done this myself, I feel like, why me? Like, why should I be talking about anything, right? Like, who's going to listen to me? And
same.
Right?
Same.
I think it's common for a lot of us within OT. And for those people that like have stuff to say, we all have something to say, and feel a passion, feel compelled, feel whatever it is. Like, all I can say is just start talking about it. And it doesn't have to be like huge, grandiose ideas, but like just start having conversations, because again, the more conversations we can have, the more that it's going to start to spread. And I think starting small and gaining some power, like that's what's going to happen. And so I just feel like I always want to kind of share with people that I never thought that I had anything important to say. And I deal with imposter syndrome, and I deal with all of that stuff. And here we are having this conversation about it, right? And I'm sure you probably felt the same way of like, oh, no one needs to hear from me.
100%. And I literally contemplate that with every decision I've made thus far. I think it's been a year since I've been actively advocating for not only my profession, but for diversity and inclusion, and just being more mindful about what I put on social media and wanting to convey like this message. And what I've learned from all that is, you know, I literally have all that self-doubt and that negative thinking, but I think that if everyone thinks that way, no one is going to listen to us. No one's going to hear even what we have to say. So I think that if we all think that way, there's nothing going to ever be accomplished. And, you know, I may not be an expert in the field, but I'm an expert in my life and my own experiences, and they are relevant to this conversation, and I should be listened to, and so should you, and so should everyone that has a passion for something. And that's what's really motivating me to continue to do what I'm doing. You know, I don't get paid for it. This is all extra stuff that I do. I love it. And I mean, I just wanted to put that out there, because I actually had a few people ask me, like, are you sponsored? Or do you post things because you get paid for it? I don't get paid a dime. If anything, I'm losing money by spending so much time like advocating for all these things. But I don't care, because this is something I cannot keep quiet about. And I've been thinking about doing for a long time. I just didn't find a way to do it. And I think that social media is a blessing and a curse, because it's a blessing. You can connect with so many people, but it's a curse because you see that there's so many issues out there, and the wrong things are being represented in social media. The wrong things are being valued. You can have a lot of negativity in the space. So you have to be very protective with who you have in your circle and who you follow, who you interact with on a daily basis. But it definitely it's a double-sided coin.
Oh, yeah. And I think, too, a lot of people in social media, that they might be really quick to judge something that you say, or a picture that you put out, or some sort of view that you hold. And because you're not directly face-to-face with somebody, it's almost just like, oh, well, I can be rude back. And like, they kind of lose that humanistic ability to communicate with people. And again, like going back to the point of being able to overcome sharing your voice, to then have somebody maybe spin it the wrong way, or just make you feel bad about something that you said. I mean, I know it's happened to me, and I'm like, oh gosh, why, like, should I have really like said that? And it makes you question, and then you're like, no, I'm passionate about this.
Those are haters that just spend time trolling on social media, and they So, I mean, I had to think about that. And human psychology is so weird in that sense that you get 95% positive feedback, but that 5% is what keeps you up at night thinking, like, did I mess up? Did I say the wrong thing? And I've been much more conscious of that, because literally you will always focus on the negative. That 1%, that 2% of people that say you didn't make an impact, or what you said was wrong, or you should have said it this way, or you were not politically correct when you said that. But you literally have to just put that aside and think about the bigger picture, and think about, did I really say something wrong? And you, Sarah, you don't say anything wrong. So. So you don't have to worry about that. So,
Oh, I've been called out.
well, everyone, it happens to the best of us, but literally it's just something that I get angry about, and I have to be just so much more conscientious of what I'm doing and keep that my why
Yep.
with me always, because one negative comment is not enough to stop me. And I feel like other people may be deterred by it. Other people may not. I don't know. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's a hard balance. You just have to be very conscious about what you're thinking with social media. So
yes. So not speaking of negative comments, we're going to talk about a positive comment right now. I want to just read what Dev wrote, because he just kind of wrote a little novel here. But
I love him. Can I just
no,
say
me too.
that's my boo? Like, he is amazing, and if you don't follow him, please follow him. The Rainbow Tea, he's just awesome. Everything he posts, I'm just like, oh my god, you're the best. So we need more people like him, just being out there and just showing who you are authentically, being vulnerable, and speaking up about issues that matter. So that's my soapbox on it.
100% agree. I love Dev as well. And we were actually just chatting before I jumped on the live, and I was like, Dev, because I met him at conference last year. I didn't even know he existed until then. And I'm like, I don't even know how I lived until I met Dev. Like, oh my goodness.
He's the unicorn of OT. Can we just put this out there? Like, he is the unicorn. There's very little males in our profession, or I guess like how he identifies as they, but still, like, very little. And then the fact that that he is so vulnerable and out there and talking about these issues about diversity and inclusion, like, come on, like, I'm mind blown. Like, this is a unicorn, and we need to listen to him. Like, his perspective is gold.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm going to read what he said, just in case anybody popped on after this comment. But they said, you nailed it, Michelle. As a healthcare, oh gosh, and I can't read it. As a healthcare professional of any field, it's unavoidable to experience people of all walks of life, all genders, identities, backgrounds, etc. It's our job to treat each human as a human, to make them feel valued and listened to. It's our job to honor and include their culture and diversity, because that's who they are. Like, if I had a mic, just mic drop.
Mic drop.
Yeah.
He's crying. BRB.
Oh.
Don't cry.
Yeah. And another like fun fact about Dev is he did this whole 101 series about the LGBTQIA+. And I have referenced that so many times within the past couple of weeks, out like hanging out with friends. I was at a conference the other day, and these topics came up, and I was like, you guys need to go read this. You need to go get informed.
Because that voice is not being represented. And, just Deb is bringing that to light, and there's questions. I've worked with people that come from, various backgrounds, and that identify. I had a student, 11 years old, that identified, biologically female, identified as male. And it was my time working with them. And see, it's still hard for me. And it's something that's a learning process, but I take the time to like try to learn more about it. And I've had other practitioners ask me, like, how do you address this? How did you even get them to open up to you? How did you do the evaluation? Because everything on the eval was female, she, when that person wanted to be identified as he. And it's crazy how, like, just all of it came together. And then I don't know, I reference it as well, because I think it's a learning process for all of us, and just making the effort counts. Like, just, I think making the effort counts, just putting that time in. So
yeah. And I really like, again, one of the big things that really just stood out to me with your episode is, I think generally when people hear diversity, they just think the color of your skin. And you made a comment about how diversity is not just the color of your skin. There are so many different aspects that make up who a person is. And like, when you made that comment, it's something that like I know, but as soon as you said that, like, I got chills, and I was like, yes, like, this is what people need to hear. And identity is one portion of that, right? Race is one portion, culture is one portion. Like, there's so many different things that make us, that make you, that make me, that make all of us that are listening right now. And it's so important specifically for us as holistic healthcare professionals to be aware of all of that. And yes, we don't have to be experts, but we have to have that awareness and that openness to be able to try to address that, or at least open up the conversation with our clients.
Right. And to do that, you have to be aware of your own biases, your own culture, your own background, your own values. There's a certain degree of self-reflection that you have to do to be able to identify what's meaningful to you, and then see if you're projecting that onto others. And what's meaningful to you may not be meaningful to someone else. So you have to know yourself really well in order to be able to provide that care that we're talking about. And it sounds so simple, like, oh, I know I grew up with this background. But for example, like I come from a really huge Hispanic background. We are very big on like explicit norms, I would say. Like we are literally like huggers. We say everything, like everything that comes to mind. You know, we are just loud people in general, very affectionate. And we just say everything that we feel. We're just very explicit in that sense where we say everything. Other cultures are not as open about things. So I had to reflect on that. Like I'm very open and I say kind of what I'm thinking, but other cultures I have to think, maybe this client didn't tell me something. Just by her body language, I'm sensing something is off. So maybe I have to ask her a little bit more open-ended questions to see how she feels about this and how this mom feels about, you know, my intervention and things like that. It's little things that you have to identify within yourself. And I also have to think about how I come off. I may come off as forward. I may come off as loud. I may come off as, you know, too much, too extra is like how I like to call it. So I have to be very conscious of that when I'm interacting with clients and their families, because not everyone is the same as me. So I have to adapt. We're adaptable as OTs.
Yes. Yeah. And I was just kind of thinking about the client that you were just talking about that was female but identified as male. And I'm sure there were so many times that that client felt like that they had to do certain occupations or play with certain toys that were gendered towards what maybe society was putting them into that category, or even what other like healthcare providers were doing. And so you have to like think not just based on what that person, what you assume that they are, but you also have to look at what they want to be doing too. Like if they like, you know, boys playing with dolls and girls playing sports and all that kind of nonsense. Like, we can do whatever we want.
Right. And not gonna lie, to be real with you, it's a little bit uncomfortable for you because it's something that is outside of what you're used to and what your norm is. So you are going to feel a little bit uncomfortable, because I was always thinking like, oh my gosh, am I going to call him a she? And then they're going to be offended with me and on accident because I'm going solely based on looks. So that was hard for me at first because I didn't want to make a mistake. But I realized when I first started working with them that they appreciated the fact that I even listened. I just asked, like, what made you come to this decision, and like, what do you value, and what do you want to do, what do you want to work on, what's important to you and your family, how do you feel about all these things? I just talked about it, and as someone that's totally accepting and just wanting to listen and understand their background, and that just made a world of a difference. Because if I didn't care, I would just be like, she, okay girl, what are we gonna do, let's do this. You know what I mean? Like, it would be not even a topic. But the fact that he noticed that I made a conscious effort to do this and to put myself out there and to ask what mattered, that made all the difference.
And I think that's one of our really big strong points as a profession, is that we have the ability and we have the capability to do that within our sessions. And I know with like productivity demands and with all the changes that are going on, specifically in the US, in terms of OT and in terms of therapy, we still have to, even if it's a minute, even if it's 5 minutes, we still need to take the time to connect with our clients regardless, and really try to dig past just the surface level healthcare and really get into who they are so we can do the best work to help them overcome or learn or relearn whatever it is that they are trying to get to. But we have to take that extra time to do it, and it's so important.
Absolutely. And it's not something that's easy. Like, you have to make that conscious effort to do that. You can't just go cookie cutter into your sessions and just go about your day like, oh, this person has this is what we're going to do. It takes that motivation from you and that time and that I don't know, like just that thought to be able to do that. You have to be conscious about it when you're doing it. Yeah. And that takes a lot. That's why I feel like our profession may be more prone to burnout than most, because we're so emotionally involved, and you have to, like you said, you have to take that time to build rapport and see what matters to that person. And you have to have empathy, and then you feel what they are experiencing sometimes, and it can definitely weigh on you. So.
Yeah. And I think right in the beginning, you mentioned becoming a part of your clients' families, right? Like you're working with these kiddos, and because you're with them for however long, even if it's short, you actually like start to become a part of their family. And that line right there is also can make it very challenging, because you get exposed to more information than potentially other healthcare providers would either hear or learn about.
Yes.
And so, I mean, I've had so many times where parents have confided in me, and I'm just sitting there like, okay, I wasn't expecting this today, but like I'm here and you need it.
Absolutely. That's happening too. I'm like, oh God. And then you start thinking like, oh, maybe they should talk to someone, because this is a lot to like just unload on a therapist. And if that happens, that to me is kind of like a red flag. Like there is some stuff going on at home, and like maybe they need a little bit more support. But I honestly think it's just because we're asking those questions. I think everyone else is kind of like, they need to get this stuff done, and not to talk negatively about other professions, because we couldn't do what we do without the other professions. Right. Let's be honest, we're a team. So it's not to talk negatively, but it's something that I think everyone could benefit from, having a little bit of more of an OT lens, at least initially, to build rapport and to figure out, you know, the needs of the client. So
yeah. 100%. Yes. Like there's so much that I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, where are we going to go with that? Are we going to go here?
There are a lot of professions that I've seen and I've adapted a lot of like information from, like nurses, I think have wonderful people, and like they just have so much support in general, because there's so many nurses in the United States. But I've read so many wonderful articles that they've put out there, and about diversity, about inclusion, and about how to be a culturally sensitive practitioner. So I do think that it's out there. I don't think that it's huge yet, but I do think that those efforts are being noticed in each profession. I just think that it has to be at a higher volume. And, you know, I'm thankful that I have the opportunity at least to be able to talk about this within my own profession. And hopefully it extends to other professions, because I think that's important too, that it's not just about our own, it's about extending to other practitioners across the board.
Completely. Yes, I 100% agree. Michelle, do you have maybe like one moment or like one thing that's happened within your OT career that really just stands out to you?
In what way? There's so many moments that stand out to me.
Yeah, good, bad, just like something that has been significant in a way that will always be one of those things that you'll take with you throughout the rest of your career.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I have a moment like this every week. And I think that's why I feel like I have such a great profession. Well, positively, I have a family that I work with. I have a little girl that has achondroplasia. She's 3 years old. And she has been such a wonderful learning experience, because I think everything that she does has to be adapted because of her stature. She's short, very little extremities. And then we have to adapt everything that she does. Her family is 100% Spanish speaking, and I've had to support them in so many ways just to navigate the healthcare system. I've had to find them a support group. I've had to, I don't want to say had to, I get to, because I feel privileged to be able to do that. So I'm changing my terminology. I get to be able to be that person that they confide in, and they've invited me to her birthday parties. I mean, I feel like I am another member. I'm her aunt, her tita. Literally, that is my girl. And I am so honored to have been able to hold that part in her life and to serve as an advocate for her, because I've empowered her family to advocate for her when, you know, at first I had to do it, and now they are doing it. They are going out of their way to find resources for her, to get what she needs, and to support her in any way that she needs. So I feel very blessed to have been able to play a role in her life. And I will keep her with me always, honestly. Like, I'll think of her honestly throughout my whole profession because she's just been awesome. And I've had her for a year already, literally, since like my
Oh,
first day.
wow.
Since my first day, and I still have her. So
That's awesome. Yeah.
it is awesome. It really is. I see her 3 times a week.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah. So you know her like in and out, and
I'm the only one that works with her for OT. I mean, that is my girl.
Right.
You get so attached.
Oh.
That's the hard part.
Yeah.
I'm so attached that I'm like, really, she's doing wonderful. Like, we're looking towards a discharge soon. But it's that sadness because I was that person in their life that they felt listened to and helped them in so many ways. And I didn't really think about it like that until I received like these little cards that they'd write for me and like these little tokens that they would give me, and like they would say, express it to me. And it just really hit home. Like, what I'm doing makes a difference, regardless of however many years of experience I have, regardless of whatever else is going on in my life. Like, what I do every day is changing their lives and for the better. And that's what really motivates me every day to continue to do what I do. So
yeah. And I think on a daily basis we deal with a lot of stuff. We deal with a lot of emotions. We deal with a lot of
stress.
Really sad stories and histories that you like, it's hard to kind of wrap your head around. And I think it's easy for us to kind of like spiral into, I'm not doing anything, or I'm not doing enough, or I need to do more. And having those moments where you can know that you've made a big, significant difference in a family's life, like,
and you don't realize it. Like, along the way, you're kind of like, okay, we're addressing this, and the parents wants me to work on this, and you don't really realize it until they express that to you, or when you just take the time to reflect and you see how much progress has been made, or just how much of an impact you've made on a family. Maybe the child has not progressed in the ways that you expected them to, but they feel more connected to their child, or they feel like they were able to advocate for their child and what they need more in school or in another environment. So really, it's so crazy what you can do with a family when you work with them so closely. And wow, that was like the positive. Now, so
you have a negative.
Then of course, you know, if you want to look at things negatively, I mean, there are days I come home defeated. Like, I feel like I didn't do enough. I feel like I was not competent with that intervention. It was a case that was really involved, and I don't have that much experience with that. You definitely can get, you know, or go down that rabbit hole of feeling down and not feeling like you provided the best care. That is something that unfortunately I think you feel up until your whole life. There's going to be those cases that challenge you, and you know, you just have to do the best that you can, and you know, talk to your parents and have the like, just ask what's important to them, and just honestly just be very transparent. I'm very transparent when I feel like uncomfortable, or when I feel like something is a little bit out of my comfort zone. I will say, like, listen, I may not have all the answers right now, but I will do my best to like figure out what it is that your child needs, and we will work on it next week. So I have homework and you have homework for like little, like the little things that I do know. I'm like, well, they definitely need this, this, and that. So we can work on that in the meantime, and I will look into what you expressed to me, so that next session we can, you know, because kind of have a conversation about that.
Yeah, and that's such wise advice for anybody, because especially new grads and students, I feel like when they come out, they're like, okay, I know, or I should know everything.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you get this rare case that nobody else has seen before, and it's like, all right. And it's not that you need to know everything, but you have to be resourceful and say, hey, I don't have all the answers, but I'm going to help figure out as much as I possibly can. And I will take the time to help you guys and do my own research. And if I can't help, like, I will try to connect you with another resource or another person that can help. And yeah, it's literally just taking that one more step, and not just, well, I don't know, I'm just going to brush it aside because I don't know, and nobody else knows what to do. Dr. Google doesn't tell me what I need to do with this case.
Oh my God. Yes. I mean, for me, mentorship has been huge. Like, at the hospital, I do feel like I have such a positive support system there, and that I have therapists that I can always go to, and they are so knowledgeable and they can help me through. In private clinics, not so much. I've had some like independent growing experiences there because I didn't really have as much support. So for those of you that maybe feel like they're lacking in support or mentorship, I use Facebook a lot, like the Facebook pediatric support groups. Yep. If you Google things that you're looking into, there, I guarantee you there may be at least 1 or 2 posts that someone has posted about, you know, a child or like a complex case, and you can always find like.
Feel like you wanted to talk about or dig deeper about the episode? I'll kind of give you the chance to, or do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, I actually do have a question for you. I wanted to ask, like, what would your piece of advice be, since you do have 10 years of experience? What would your advice be for, I guess, for a practitioner that feels like they are constantly struggling, or like they don't feel like they know enough, imposter syndrome. I feel like I'm still navigating that. Like some days I feel really good, some days I feel like I'm, you know, still needing so much support in certain areas, and it's frustrating because sometimes you think like maybe this child would be better off with another therapist, and that feeling is awful to have. Although I'm super motivated and things like that, I mean, I am very aware that I don't have 10 years of experience behind. You're listening to, what you're consuming throughout the day. And right. And that's why your podcasts are awesome. Like that's why you do your podcast, I'm sure, because you want to be able to provide opportunities for others to have positive influences, to have be enlightened in certain areas of practice. And it's just something positive that you're listening to throughout the day versus a typical negative feedback loop of I'm not enough, I can't do this, I have so much on my plate, I'm burnt out, I'm doing all these things. You have to proactively feed your mind just like you would feed your body.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I like to be 100% real with you right now. I've had so many comments since I started the podcast, and it's been 16-ish months that that it's been in the real world. I've had so many people that have reached out to me that are like, I was so burnt out. I was really just kind of down about the profession. I was wondering if if OT was even for me. And after listening to your show, I have like this kind of reignited passion and inspiration. And that wasn't even, when I started the podcast, like that wasn't even really a thought that I had. I was just like, I meet all these amazing OTs and I just want to share, like I want to share all these amazing people with the world. And in light of that, it is inspiring people and inspiring them to be better practitioners and to do better work. And yeah, it's just been, I'm speechless about it because it was one of those things that I was not expecting to happen, and it's really cool. It's really cool that it is so
amazing. That is so amazing. Honestly, that is so great that you can be someone that can change that. You can change the way that someone is thinking about, their profession. That's unheard of. That's awesome. And I believe it 100% because I feel like just personally my own thought processes and how I feel about myself has changed immensely since I've been able to listen to different podcasts and just challenge myself in terms of personal development. And it's made such a huge difference. I was the person, I was anxious at night and thinking about all of these things that I have to do, about student loans, about, my profession. I'm not good enough. I just started. I don't know what I'm doing. Now that I have my master's degree, like, I don't know what I do. Like, that was my goal, honestly. Like, my goal in life was to get to here. And now I'm here. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not, that was my goal. Now what? And I was anxious about that. But I think just taking that time to reflect and to take time to listen to podcasts and to do things like, what you're talking about and challenge myself every day. I absolutely believe what they're telling you because that's how I feel personally.
Well, and honestly, like I get so much inspiration from my guests, like literally, and I know it's going to happen right after we're done here too. Like I record, and then after recording, I'm just like fired up, and I like run out of the room. And if my husband's there, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just had the best recording, blah, 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 blah. And he's just like, okay, great. And, like literally, I feel like I'm on top of the world. And so I just love showcasing the amazing practitioners that are within our profession, you being 100% included in that. Like, oh yeah. And so I love it. I love that I can just talk to people and they get to share their story and I get to be a part of it. So
Oh, you're awesome. And I'm so thankful that you asked me to be on your show, because honestly, I was so nervous about it. I was like, oh my God, who wants to listen to me? Exactly what we were talking about earlier. Like, who wants to listen to what I have to say? So I think it's great that you.
So one more quick thing. We only have like 3 more minutes or something like that. But could you just elaborate just a little bit more? Because I know you had told me, and you just mentioned it, that you kind of thought you weren't going to come on at first.
Oh,
what was it that made you change your mind?
Okay. So I initially was like, oh my God, I went through this whole internal conflict of going on the show, because I was thinking like, what are my friends going to think? What are like my coworkers going to think? Because I'm like the newest one and they're going to think that like, who am I doing podcasts and all these things? But like I said, like I had that conversation, like I'm not on here to be an expert in the field. I'm on here to be an expert in my own life. And I use that every day in my example. Like I want to portray like my own experiences, and I want to be very transparent about that in the hopes that it helps one person. If it helps one person, I'm happy, honestly. Like if there's someone that's going to say something negative about it, that's fine. But I know that from my own story and my own background, my own upbringing as a Venezuelan and Puerto Rican woman in a profession that is primarily white and female, I feel like there's someone out there wanting to listen to my perspective and that it matters to them. And I mean, the truth is that I've had a few people reach out to me saying like they resonated a lot with the episode. And I'm so happy that I went through with it and I challenged myself and pushed myself through it, because I mean, I'm not the best public speaker, but I think that there's an important message out there that I want to put. So I want to put out there. So yeah, that was my whole struggle.
Thank you for sharing that, because I think that is going to resonate with people. Like, why me? And they listen to you and they're like, oh, this girl's great. But you had that same thought of like, people aren't going to want to listen to me. So thank you. I'm going to have to cut this off because Instagram only gives us 60 minutes and it's just going to cut us off. But on that note, like, that was amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the episode. Thank you so much for coming on the live and really just opening up about your story, your journey, and the expert of your life. I love that.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Sarah. And thank you to everyone that listened and tuned in for however long. This has been wonderful, and hopefully an experience like this comes up again, because I mean, I'm super passionate about the topics that we talked about. So thank you again.
All right. Take care and have a wonderful evening.
You too.
Bye. All right. Bye.